Hello, and welcome to another Conversations for Change. My name is Laura Dorman, and I'm the Director of Corporate Affairs here at Litify. We thank you so much for joining us today on what we consider a very, very special occasion. Conversations for Change is a web-based series where we bring people on to talk about issues that are affecting us today in our community. They're social justice focused, they may be focused on welfare, children's welfare, illness, whatever the case may be. Today, we're going to be talking about voting and the upcoming election. I want to thank everyone for joining us, and I want to thank our guests. Today is Litify's annual day of service. 9/11 is a very, very important date for us. In our corporate office in Brooklyn, you can actually see where the towers stood. So being that Litify is so ingrained into the culture of New York City, we thought that 9/11 would be a perfect day for us to have our annual day of service. Last year, we were all together and we did hygiene bags for women and children that were being taken out of trafficking situations. This was for the Georgia Center for Child Advocacy, one of the regional charities that we work with. We were really looking forward to being together again this year, but unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we are practicing our social distancing and everyone is working from home. We were very concerned as to what we were going to do for the 9/11 day of service because we couldn't be together. We couldn't do something as a group. So we looked to do something that we could have people go out and help in their own communities and enter Power the Polls. There is a great shortage this year of poll workers that will be able to work the election. If you've been to vote, you will see mostly it's older people who are retired, and because of the pandemic, they won't be participating this year. So Litify decided that we would step up and we would join the effort, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that today. Our employees will get the day off on November 3rd, part of volunteer time off, to actually go and work the polls. We are proud members of Pledge 1%, and this is how we give back to our community and we get involved. I want to welcome our guests today, John Wright, who will be my co-host, who I'll be introducing in a moment. Also, Stephen Levine from the Civic Alliance. We're so thrilled to have you. And one of our great partners, Tom Giordano from Pond Lehocky. So welcome to all of you. John, I'm going to talk about you a little bit. I'm so proud to have you here today. John is a veteran of the U.S. Air Force, F-16 crew chief, served. And before I asked you to do this, I had no idea this had happened. But you actually have your day of calling, and the day you decided to enlist was actually 9/11. Yeah. And I'm laughing because you said it was when your braces were being tightened. So I feel pretty old. But I'm sure we all remember where we were on 9/11. And I just want to talk a little bit about your service there. And then also for those of you that are seeing the names that are scrolling across the screen, these are people that have either served in the armed forces or are first responders that are part of our Litify family. These are all Litify people and employees who have served for us. So please thank them. And John, with no further ado, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Awesome. Laura, thank you so much for having me. Tom, Stephen, it's so great to have you guys here. I am absolutely honored to be here, especially being asked to host on 9/11, which is not only an important day to our country, but a very important day to me personally. It was my day of calling, 9/11 was, and I didn't really understand at the time why it was, but I knew that something in me told me that I needed to give back. I needed to do something and figure out what that looked like. And so when I was 18, I made that choice and I joined up and did my part. And I'd like to continue to do so. And so it's very much an honor to me to be able to host today and introduce, Stephen and Tom, two people who are leading that charge on the forefront of what we're going through today and putting up those polls and getting people out there to do what's so important to them, and that's to vote. So thank you both so much for joining us today. If you could, I'd like to let you introduce yourselves. Stephen, we'll start with you if that's all right with you, what you're doing.
Sure thing. Good afternoon or good morning if you're on the West Coast, and thank you very much for the opportunity today. My name is Stephen Levine. I'm the director of the Civic Alliance, which is a nonpartisan coalition of companies that is coming together to inspire every American to help shape our country's future. And one of the major campaigns that we're working on is called Power the Polls, and we're excited to talk to you more about that today. So thank you.
Great.
Well, thank you for having me, John, and it's nice to meet Stephen. And John, thank you for your service. I mean, your story, it's inspirational. I remember where I was, like I'm sure everybody else does, on 9/11. I was a first-year law student. I've been blessed and I've been honored to represent some first responders in disability matters from from Ground Zero. So today means a lot to me as well. But a little bit about myself. I am a partner at Pond Lehocky. We are a pretty large workers' compensation law firm in Pennsylvania, the largest, I believe. We have a national Social Security disability practice, which I currently head. We also have a very large referral network that we are obviously connected through Litify and Litify partners throughout the country. As the head of the Social Security Department, I've been able to do some things this year, and one has been to create a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. I've been inspired by the movements that have been happening in this country over the last 6 months or so. Felt like Pond Lehocky needed to do something. We needed to be better. And it was through the DEI, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, that we agreed to promote the vote, which is something that we're going to talk about today. But we are also, like Litify, giving our staff the day off on election day so that they can help as poll workers, as volunteers. It's really important to us that people have the opportunity to exercise their vote. So I'm looking forward to talking about it today.
Awesome. Yeah, me too as well. We have a great civic partnership with you guys at Pond Lehocky. You guys are a fantastic partner. Steven, it's great to meet you. This is our first time meeting. It's great to meet you. Thanks so much for being here as well. Back to the 9/11 memorial. I've actually never been to New York. I've never seen the memorial. I hear it's extremely powerful. Before we jump into the questions, I'd like to do something to propose to you guys, if you're all right with it. Every year since the 9/11 has happened, myself, my family, my loved ones, we have a moment of silence very quickly just to pay our respects to those individuals that lost their lives and for the greater sacrifice that followed after that day. So we could just have a quick moment of silence. I really appreciate it. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that. So let's jump into it. So both of you guys are doing great things. Steven, you're doing great things. Tom, you guys are doing great things with the poll today, leading that initiative. We have some questions that I'd like to run through today just to kind of understand, Steven, what you guys are doing, and Tom, what you guys are doing. Steven, can you explain why there's so much anticipated shortage of poll workers this year?
Absolutely. So it's a great question, and I'll just sort of say first that that election officials always report that it is challenging to recruit enough poll workers. In 2016, 3/4 of election officials said they had a difficult or a very difficult time recruiting enough poll workers to staff polling places. And so typically, as was referenced earlier, the majority of folks who sign up to serve at the polls are retirees and are over the age of 60. 27% are over the age of 70. And so that is the exact community right now that we are rightfully asking to stay home and protect their health during the pandemic. Election officials estimate that we'll need upwards of 500,000 new Americans to sign up to serve at the polls that have never done so before. And so just to say out loud, elections are done differently in every jurisdiction, and so the needs will be different in every jurisdiction, and in some jurisdictions we'll have sufficient supply, but in most and in many we are seeing a real need for new, younger folks to sign up and if you're comfortable, to serve at the polls this year.
Wow, that's incredible. With the whole COVID thing, how is Civic Alliance and the Powers of Polls helping fill this gap with this initiative that they have right now? Are you guys marketing for it, or you have a place where people can go and sign up?
Absolutely. Great question, John. I think so the Civic Alliance is organizing the business community, and we are part of a campaign called Power the Polls. Power the Polls is an initiative to really help fill that gap and encourage as many Americans as possible to raise your hand and sign up and say, I want to serve as a poll worker this year. Anyone can go to this website, powerthepolls.org. I think we'll have a link coming up in a second somewhere down here that will help people to complete the process of signing up to be a poll worker. We are thrilled that hundreds of thousands of Americans have already raised their hand. and said, yes, I will serve as a poll worker. Just to say out loud, the process is you're going to sign up through the powerthepolls.org platform at that link. And then we will walk you through the process of completing the official application to serve as a poll worker in your local jurisdiction. Again, the process looks differently in different jurisdictions, but we will walk you through and take you through the process of everything you'll need to do in order to complete the official application with your election official. And I'll talk a little bit more about how folks actually serve as poll workers in a moment. But in general, the more people that we can encourage to sign up and serve, the smaller the shortage will be, and frankly, the more polling stations can remain open, and the shorter the wait for more Americans to vote. So we're really encouraging as many folks as possible to consider serving as a poll worker this year.
Yeah, this is such a huge initiative, not just for me with my background, but people are constantly asking me, John, what do we do? Like, how do I create change? How do I enact change? How can I give back? What's my part? Everyone has a part and they just don't know what it is. This is a great opportunity to provide to something that's very crucial to the country. Like, if you want change, the only way to do it is to go out and do it. And keeping those polls open is a huge part of that. Keeping that normalcy. You know, we're in a pandemic right now. The best way to get through this is to come together as a country, work together, and help when we're falling down, have someone pick us back up. And this is a perfect opportunity to do that. So I'll state this for the record here. I'll be doing Power of the Polls. I'm signing up, and I'll be running one of those polls. So if you guys are in Wilmington, North Carolina, anybody out there, come see me. I'll be there. I'll get you in there. Tom, I know you guys are doing a lot of great things too. How is Ponley Hockey there contributing to this? How are you guys helping out?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, we're obviously encouraging our staff, and we're about 160 individuals here, encouraging them to volunteer, and we're giving them a paid day off to do so. We've created, it's interesting how this all works out. A few weeks ago, we connected with an organization called the Pennsylvania Alliance and the Voter Project, and we were working on how we can get employees at Ponley Hockey to be poll workers. And then, of course, Laura and our connection with Litify told us about the Civic Alliance and Power of the Polls. We thought that was another perfect partnership to help us in all other 50 states that we're dealing with. So that's what we're doing. We're pushing, obviously we're encouraging our staff, but we're also, we're creating a site on our Ponley Hockey website. And there it is. I appreciate that. Promote the vote. So ponleyhockey.com/promote the vote. And what we're doing is we're giving you links for how you can register to vote, how you can request a mail-in ballot, apply to be a poll worker. You know, the one thing that we have is we have touched a lot of people throughout our legal dealings. So, for example, I've been honored to represent over 50,000 disabled Americans throughout the country. So that's 50,000 potential voters, right? And then we also dealt with workers' compensation in Pennsylvania, thousands upon thousands of injured workers. So we have this database, this large database that we have the ability to really send positive messages of, hey, it's really important that you register to vote. Hey, it's really important that you help out. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to leverage the assets that we have and trying to promote people going out there and exercising their right to vote.
Yeah, adapting to the times. You're creating an easy way for people to give back no matter the situation. That speaks a lot to our leaders of the country. Like, it speaks a lot to you guys as businesses. I mean, really getting out there and providing that easy way for people to continue, living their life and keeping those opportunities available. It's fantastic. Stephen, in what other ways has COVID complicated this year's election?
Well, there aren't many ways that it hasn't complicated all of our lives, and certainly the election is no different. What we're seeing across country is that election officials are really being thoughtful about how they can adapt. So in states across the country, they are vastly increasing the capacity and the opportunity to vote by mail, so that everyone can. That as many voters as possible can maintain social distance if they would like to. And so now 83% of Americans can cast a ballot by mail, which is really the largest amount of Americans that can do that we've ever had. Obviously, there are there are operational concerns with the U.S. Postal Service. So our advice is twofold. Number one, to request and return your mail-in ballot as early as possible. And number two, to follow all of the instructions on the ballot exactly so that you can ensure that your ballot is received and counted. We are also seeing that election officials are looking for new places to actually hold voting in their jurisdictions. So a lot of the locations that we traditionally see polling places at, like schools or senior centers or nursing homes, are just unavailable to host polling places in 2020. And so therefore, we're seeing a lot of companies and sports leagues stepping up to offer their locations, their publicly available locations, to serve as polling places this year. Some of the Civic Alliance member companies that are involved are making a lot of their locations available as well. The Atlanta Hawks has already converted really their State Farm Arena into the nation's first sports arena to become a polling place. They actually hosted elections there last month in a runoff election in Georgia. We are also seeing companies like Patagonia offer some of their retail locations to serve as polling places, and others are like Lush are offering their retail locations to serve as ballot drop box locations, which is an extraordinary opportunity for the corporate community, the private sector, to really step up and help fill a need. We are also just expecting a huge turnout in 2020, and we hope so, right? Because we think every American should be shaping our country's future and participating in our democracy. And so that large turnout will certainly be putting a strain on our system, and so I think there's a real opportunity across the board to encourage as many people to vote early as possible. Voters in 48 states plus the District of Columbia are eligible to cast their ballots before November 3rd, either by mail or early in person. 95% of Americans can cast their ballots before Election Day this year. And so we are encouraging Americans to learn their options to do so. And so you can visit the website howto.vote. Again, that website is howto.vote in order to learn what your voting options are in your state and help you make a plan to cast a ballot in this election. And so across the board, we're seeing companies step up in meaningful ways. I'm so thrilled to see the team at Litify and Pond Hockey step up in meaningful ways. And we are seeing a lot of companies follow suit and declare Election Day a day of service by providing their employees with time off, not only to vote, but also to serve at their local polling places. Companies, large and small, are making commitments, including companies like Old Navy and Target and Warby Parker, which are each allowing or enabling their employees to take Election Day off as a paid holiday and serve as poll workers at their local polling stations. So we encourage you to learn your options to vote, encourage you to vote as early as you're able to, and certainly sign up to serve as a poll worker. And if your company wants to think about more ways that it can get involved in encouraging civics and encouraging your employees and your consumers to be civically active, please join us at the Civic Alliance. You're welcome to visit us at civicalliance.com to learn how your company can get involved too.
Man, that's so fantastic. I mean, you've hit on the most crucial, point of America, right? Our freedom to vote, our ability to make that change by just simply going to the polls and voting. It doesn't matter which side you lean on, Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter. It matters what's true to you and what's true to your values. Get out there and vote. If you guys want to make a change, go vote. It's extremely important. Tom and Stephen are providing you avenues, are providing you ways to get out and vote. Just do it. Nike plug there.
Hey, Jack, can I interrupt for a second? Because Stephen, that was great. I mean, you're so right about how corporate America has stepped up. I mean, I've been impressed. Starbucks, Old Navy, Target, Microsoft. I mean, the list goes on and on. In the Litify platform, I'm going to call to my brothers and sisters in the legal community. We have two things. Okay, we have databases, which I referenced earlier. We have voters upon voters who can really use the right information. We're not telling you to go vote one way or vote the other. We're just telling you to vote. So if each of us sent a letter, an email, a blast to our client base, we're talking millions upon millions of people. And number two, I would also challenge every law firm, no matter if small or large, to allow your staff to volunteer and get paid for that time. I mean, I understand this is a tough time for every business. I mean, every business is feeling the crunch of business just because of what's going on with COVID. But I really think as leaders, we need to step up. And in the legal community, I think that's one way we can show how we are stepping up. Let your staff volunteer. You go. All the Pond Lehocky partners will be at the polls on election day with our staff. So it's really important to us. And I hope by doing things like this that we're inspiring people to follow us.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, where do you guys see this going in the future? Obviously, this is impacting 2020. Obviously, this is a huge workaround for the COVID situation that we have now. Where do we see this going in the future? How do we carry this outside of 2021 and keep people active at those polls? Because even before this, I'm sure, a lot of people weren't going to the polls. Like Laura said earlier, there's a certain generation that are going to the polls and there's a certain generation that aren't. How do we instill these voting values into the younger generation as we move forward and teach them that, there's important ways to make change, and that's getting to those polls?
I'm happy to take. I think we are changed forever. So maybe it's wishful thinking, but I don't ever see us going back to the days where the volunteers at sites are just older Americans. I actually think you're going to see more kids 17 and up out as poll workers than ever before. I feel like I'm an old man. I try to stay young and stay active in social media, but I am just like inundated. My niece is 19 years old. She's posting things about voting and about your rights. I'm inspired by the youth, in America right now. That I think it's changed forever, John. I think this is the first major step, and I'm hopeful that this is going to be a thing every election. We're going to have younger poll workers. We're going to have people out there talking about it. It's really important.
And I'll just echo that by saying I think we are seeing a cultural movement right now among a lot of generations, including younger Americans. And I'm really proud that we've seen an extraordinary effort from several in the media and also on social media platforms to step up in meaningful ways. We're seeing Trevor Noah of The Daily Show make being a poll worker cool and sexy, which, hey, let's do it, right? We're seeing social media platforms like Snapchat and Facebook and Instagram and many others promote opportunities to serve as poll workers to their younger users, which is really exciting because these are great opportunities to serve your community. And this is, and frankly, not only older Americans have something at stake in all of our elections. And so what we are hoping for is that we are instituting a civic culture in this country that will outlive the 2020 election cycle. And remember, there are thousands of local elections that happen across the country in odd numbered years as well as even numbered years. So our civic opportunities, our civic responsibilities do not end on November 3rd, 2020. And we have a real opportunity to build a much stronger civic fabric for our culture in this country.
Absolutely. Totally 100% agree with you. Tom, to you, what's kind of next for Pond Lehocky? Any charitable initiatives that you guys are working on coming in the coming months?
Well, we've been really heavily involved in our diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. That's been something that over the last 5 months we are we think that if you want change in this country, we think the number one thing to do is vote. Or if, I guess on the flip side, if you like how things are, vote and keep things the same. So really that's been our number one passion. We're always involved. Pond Lehocky has a Ponley hockey community. So we're getting out in the community, typically to volunteer, to do other charitable events. But right now, it's almost 100%. We're focused on the election, getting people out there, getting people registered, and making sure that they vote.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate both of you guys. I think y'all are doing some really amazing things. For those of you that are listening in out on Facebook, YouTube, watching us live at Liticast, litify.com/Liticast, please submit your questions. If you have any questions for Tom and Steven, I'd love to take those right now. So we'll kind of give it just a few minutes, see if any questions come in. If not, we'll bring Laura back in and we can go ahead and wrap this up. I really appreciate both you guys coming in. This is so important, not only for myself as a military individual, but for everyone else out there to understand how important this really is. I'm sorry, Steven, go ahead. I think you had something.
Yeah, thank you, John. And I just wanted to give some guidance to folks who may be signing up to serve as a poll worker through Power the Polls. I just wanted to make sure everybody kind of understands a few quick sort of best practices or tips. One is that in order to serve as a poll worker this year, you will need to both submit an official application with your local jurisdiction, your local election officials, and then they will reach out to you as soon as they know that they need you, that they're going to use that they can use your support. It can take a few weeks, even a month, for them to actually reach out to you and contact you about this. There are some states and some local areas that are actually holding elections right now, so their election officials are just starting to think about planning for the November election. So number one is have some patience. The second thing is that we are asking that everyone who signs up to serve as a poll worker and who is selected to serve as a poll worker will undergo a poll worker training that is being done by your local election officials. So expect to participate in a training that could be about 3 to 4 hours in length in advance of your shift to serve as a poll worker. And then the third piece is get ready to serve as a long. It'll be a long day potentially. Polling places in many states open very early at 7 a.m. in the morning and can stay as late open until 9 or 10 p.m. in the evening. And some jurisdictions allow double shifts. Other jurisdictions ask poll workers to work the entire day long shift, which can be a long shift. So please be prepared to sign up for a big day, but it will be an important day. And we'll also encourage you to wear some comfortable shoes, comfortable clothes, and bring some snacks and food. So that's kind of a preview of how it can look to serve as a poll worker. Again, it will vary by jurisdiction, but we'll just ask for you to have some patience, get ready to be trained in a training, and thirdly, to come ready for a long day, but a great and very rewarding day.
John, if I may, so Steven brings up a really good point. We anticipate there's going to be long lines. I mean, we've seen it on television. We anticipate they're going to be long. So one of the things that we are going to do for individuals who don't get selected to be poll workers is we're going to have volunteers bringing extra PPE equipment, snacks, water, hand out to people in the line. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is that either people get out of line or they get discouraged by seeing the long lines. We want to try. You got to stay in line. You got to vote. You got to keep that going. So obviously we're praying for great weather throughout the entire country that day. But it's really important that Steven just said that you're prepared to be out there a while. You have the essentials that are going to keep you out there and keep you energized. So
awesome. That's awesome. We did have a question come in for Steven. Is there anything that individuals can do remotely to support a fair and safe election, particularly those that are at high risk of COVID?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And if you do not feel comfortable serving as a poll worker or going out in public, please follow the advice of your doctors and do what makes you feel most comfortable. One other great way, particularly this community can get involved, is by volunteering with an organization called the Election Protection Hotline. So the Election Protection Hotline is a nonpartisan service that basically helps voters all across the country understand their rights to vote. And if they are encountering either very long lines or abnormal activities at polling places, voters will call into or text into that hotline and get guidance. And so particularly we have a lot of friends in the legal community who often volunteer for the election protection hotline, and you can go visit a website, 866ourvote.org, and you can sign up to serve as a volunteer for the election protection hotline, and that could be a really great opportunity for folks with legal backgrounds as well to help voters understand their rights, and also to get involved in encouraging more people to wait out and wait in those long lines and make their voice heard.
Yep, and those for those of you tuning in just now, that link is down at the bottom of the screen. Follow that link and get all signed up to help out. Stephen, Tom, from the bottom of my heart, thank you both for so much you're doing. You guys are leading the charge, and I really do appreciate that. And I know my fellow veterans out there really appreciate that too. Not everyone can answer that call to go overseas and do the business there, but you guys are doing it here, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you both so much. It was an honor being here. I'm going to turn it back over to Laura, and you guys have a great day.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. You know, I'm from a family of first responders, you know, cops and firefighters. We lost a family member in 9/11. So this just means so much that everybody's here today doing this work. Stephen, amazing. I mean, listen, when I saw this online one night at 10 o'clock, Power the Polls, this looks kind of cool. I had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, but I'm so proud and so happy. And I thank you so much for being with us today. Tom, hey man, this is us, man. I'm like, my head's spinning. I'm like, oh my gosh, we can do this and we can do this. And DEI, I mean, I run DEI for the organization. So this is very important to us as well. I think we can definitely a call to arms in our legal community to get people involved in this. This is something that we can all help each other do. Like I said, the numbers. Erin, I want to thank you for being our interpreter today. For those of you that might have missed this, you can watch the rebroadcast on our litify.com website, www.litify.com/liticast. Also, we stream this on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. If anybody has any questions, concerns, they would like to reach out to us to be involved in this organization, to be involved in Power of the Polls, please just feel free to reach out to me, Laura@litify.com. Can't get easier than that. I also want to talk about our next episode, which is next month. On October 22nd, we're going to be talking about the U.S. and Mexico border issues. We have an amazing human rights organization called Calibri, along with Amy Knight, who's a very renowned lawyer in this sort of world, and some of the things that are happening down on the U.S.-Mexico border. So we're looking forward to that, October 22nd. I want to thank you all today for being here again, Tom, Stephen, Erin, and of course my co-host John Wright. We just love, working together. It's just such a pleasure and a blessing to have him there. I'm going to sign off from here. I just encourage everyone to stay safe. Shout out to all of my local firefighters who are fighting the fires here in California. My goodness, what a disaster. So please stay safe. And for all of us around the world, around the country, you can always just do better and be better. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone stay well.